Coaches, thanks again for tuning in to the Minnesota Basketball Coaching Podcast. In a minute, we'll get started with St. Mary's University assistant coach Kyle Brown. But before that, I wanted to just plug my video breakdown software or website through gumroad.com/Coach Cloutier. Gumroad.com/Coach Cloutier. I've done 2 video breakdowns. The first one of Augsburg College's transition offense, and the second one, St. John's University's 3-out 2 and ball screen offense. Again, gumroad.com/Coach Cloutier to access that content. All right, so we're going to welcome in St. Mary's assistant coach, Kyle Brown. Coach, thanks for joining today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk some hoops.
I know you're busy with COVID and recruiting through a lot of live streaming and different mechanisms, so I'm not sure how many, if you've been able to check out the podcast or not, but we always start with our coaching Wikipedia page. And so tell us what your coaching Wikipedia page, where you're from, where you played, and what brought you to St. Mary's.
Yeah, so I have listened to most of the podcasts. It's been a really good series so far, some really good coaches. I think for me, I'm from Burlington, Wisconsin, which is it's a town in southeast Wisconsin of it's now about 12,000 people or so. Back when I was growing up and when I was younger, it was a lot smaller, and it's just a real middle class, blue collar type town. I played every sport growing up. I have a brother that's 2 years younger, and so me and him, we competed all the time and would punt basketballs down the hill and get competitive. And we both love basketball the most. Like, he was a college soccer player, but I think if you would hold a gun to his head, he would have rather played basketball all through. And then for me, I love playing basketball. And Burlington when we were in high school, was a Division I school, which is the biggest high school in Wisconsin. So, I played freshman year, sophomore year. It was funny, both years I always thought I was the first guy that was going to get cut coming from a Catholic grade school. My freshman year, I almost tried wrestling because I was like, there's no way there's 40 dudes I'm making the team. And I was, a good player both years. And then my junior and senior year, I was on varsity. I didn't really play a ton because we were Division I. And my senior year, I got to a point where I was probably ready to play, had a chance to at least be in the rotation, worked really hard. And then we got in a transfer that ended up being a Division II All-American in college. So that was kind of a tough blow my senior year. My claim to fame is I'm 2 for 2 in my varsity career. So 100% shooting percentage, can't beat it. And then I just knew at an early age I wanted to coach. I coached my brother's team with my dad when he was in 7th and 8th grade, and I was freshman, sophomore in high school. I coached the high school teams the younger high school teams while I was in high school. Went to UW Parkside as a student assistant, worked for Luke Riegel. It was one of the best experiences of my life. He's just an amazing coach, amazing mentor. And I think I always tell people, 1, he's the best offensive mind I've ever been around. And then 2, the thing I think looking back that I took most from it is he took input from me from day one. The day I walked on campus, he let me be involved with recruiting. He let me be involved with coaching. I did post-player stuff. I did scouting, everything. And he let me say things suggestions. And looking back, I cringe at some of the things I suggested to him. And he just he wasn't a jerk about it. He was okay, placated me and was okay, yeah, I'll think about it. And then I decided why do I listen to this guy, or why is he talking? But so after that, I did that for 4 years. It was a really good, like I said, a really good experience. We made the NCAA tournament. And then I went to St. Norbert College, worked for a guy named Gary Gresh. It's a D3 school up in De Pere, Wisconsin, which is Green Bay. And that was a really good experience. Coach Riegel was to offense. Gary was defense and culture. And he was a Dick Bennett guy. He played at Green Bay for Coach Bennett. So I learned so much, and I was basically, from the time I got there, I was the one coordinating all the recruiting and doing all the stuff, and really tilted my lens to the defensive side of the floor those 5 years. And we had a ton of success there with 3 NCAA tournaments and 3 conference championships. And when I left, the last year I was there, they started a streak where they set the NCAA record for most conference wins in a row over the next 3 years. And then from there, I took a job down at Cornell College in Mount Vernon, Iowa, which is between Cedar Rapids and Iowa City. Super small town, about 3,700 people. I worked for a guy named Chad Murray there. The thing I probably got from him the most was he really cared about the guys. His big thing was he wanted guys to be a great teammate, and I think he was really open to just suggestions, and I guess collaborative is the best word with him. I left there, and that's when I took the job at St. Mary's for Coach Rustoven, Jamison Rustoven, when he was the one that hired me. It was kind of funny because I was between jobs when he hired me, and I was working a sales job in Milwaukee, selling corporate hospitality to for sporting events. Like I was trying to sell to the U.S. Open in Erin Hills. So you're cold calling 150 people a day. You're getting shut down by a 60-year-old receptionist. You're trying to work back way through the phone system, and it was just not a fun experience. And Coach Rustoven kind of saved me a lot with that and got me here. And then we've just kind of built it ever since. So this was my 4th year here, and it's been a fun ride at St. Mary's. And the last 3 years, I've also coached AAU, which has been fun too.
All right, so Saturday morning, you're probably sitting around, and you maybe an AAU tournament. I know you coach AAU. We'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe you're in your deluxe Winona apartment. All of a sudden, I'm sure your phone blows up, right? And you get Fran Fraschilla gives you a little love on Twitter, right? Coaches, you will love this coaching resource from Coach Kyle Brown of St. Mary's Hoops. Sign up for his email. Thanks for sharing. What was your initial reaction when you're getting love from Fran on social media?
So it's kind of funny. We had a 10 a.m. game at Burnsville for Select. And so with the way that tickets are done, I had to go to a gas station by there with an ATM and clear out 3 of my cards. So, you're not in a good mood when you got to get the cash and you got to be able to go pay for it on your own. And okay, it's I have $50 on this card. I have 100, whatever. So I get back in my car and I'm driving over to the gym and, not in a bad mood, but I'm just okay, I'm cleared out. I got it. Now all these parents have to pay me the cash. And all of a sudden I get this notification, and I had included him in a tweet, just including that he was in the newsletter for the week, and it says Fran Fraschilla, and I'm oh, he must have just liked it. That's cool. And then I look, I'm no, he mentioned me. And then I looked down again. Not that I was I was at a stoplight, but
yeah, allegedly you were at a stoplight.
I was at a stoplight. I'm not making air quotes or anything. I looked down and I'm wait a minute. And I'm just I just had this feeling oh my gosh. And I just couldn't believe it. It was just so crazy. And then the whole day, I see Zach Cave in the gym, and he's like, did you see this? I'm yeah. He's oh my God, I got to go tweet about it. So then it was that the whole day. And it was one of those really just, and again, it's Twitter. It's not it's real life, but it's not I'm just this is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. And just people blowing up and notifications and people I jumped 150 subscribers to my newsletter. So, it was just one of those most surreal experiences I've ever had, with that type of thing.
We deserve it because you put a lot of hard work. In the Gaps is the blog that Kyle has started. Highly, highly, highly recommend. Hopefully you get, the 4 to 6 people that will listen to this. Hopefully half of them, 2 or 3 of them will join the newsletter. Just give us the background of how you started the blog and then what it consists of for those that might not be familiar.
Yeah. So I started it back in the spring. I wanted a way to we were all dealing with COVID and lockdown in Winona, and you can see my deluxe apartment for those that have the video access. It's not very deluxe. There's not much room. Winona's a good town, but when you're locked down, you're locked down. So I wanted something to do. I've always liked breaking down film online, and posting stuff to Twitter, stuff to my YouTube. For me, it was one of those things that it just made sense to do. I was following a guy named David Perel, and he's basically big into it's branding and marketing, and writing stuff online is his kind of niche. And he's it's one of the best ways to share information. I was at a point where I was consuming too much information and I had nowhere to go with it. And so it was almost overwhelming. That's when we had all the coaches clinics. That's when we had all of that. And for me, I was this is great, but I'm burnt out from these coaches clinics. I got to get this information out. So I just kind of started it, and I try to do 1 post a week and kind of break down something. And it's been a fun experience for me because it's just this is a great way for me to get stuff out there. I really like having it because not only does it help me, but it can help other people, because it's when I write that stuff and I got to watch the film, I'm breaking it down, but then other people are going to get the same benefit that I am if they read it, that they're going to learn and be able to oh, that's an interesting concept. I've never thought of that. I'm going to go look at more clips. And so that's kind of why I started. And then the newsletter just kind of spawned off it, it's something I've wanted to do for a while. Easy way to share. I mean, it's completely free. And I try to make it really quick and easy because we all subscribe to a million newsletters that we never read because it's just well, I'm not watching 40 minutes of this or reading a huge article. 5 plays, some podcast recommendations, a couple articles, couple quotes, and a video. And you can consume it at once. You can consume it in pieces. And I think that's it's been a really good thing. I've gotten some really good feedback on it, but it's just good to share. Like, as you learn stuff, the best way to keep learning and digest it is to share it with others. So
what I love that you've done with this is when you break down, and I'm speaking more here to the film breakdown, is when you're breaking down film, you're not taking, all right, let's see what Vogel's running for LeBron out of timeout. It's like, okay, that's great. You could run anything for LeBron to get a switch in an ISO, and he's probably going to be successful and you look like a good coach. But I mean, you've done the Iowa Wolves, you've done the Maine, I want to say Red Claws, right? Not White Claws. Maine Red Claws. You've done some other teams too. You looked at the Portland Trailblazers, but you didn't like say, okay, let's look at some ISO sets for Damian Lillard. And so how do you decide what you're looking to break down? Is there a certain action that you've seen from, with Iowa Wolves, you looked at a lot of it playing through the new tradition, or the modern 5-out, playing through the 5 at the top of the key with some stagger away and away screens and that sort of stuff. But is there like a specific action you're looking to write out, or is there just you pick a team and just like let the team take where you go?
Kind of both. Like early on, it was more, and I guess it still is, like I'll go on Synergy and they'll have like rankings by percentile, or they'll say like Northern Colorado has the best hitting the roll man points per possession with the most possessions. So then I'll just dive into that. Like Portland, it was basically I found all of Damian Lillard ball screens. So all the times he's passed or shot on a ball screen and make. So it was like 700 clips. So I just dive into that. But some teams like the Rockets, I just did. I broke down the whole season of Rockets, and except the last couple of bubble games. I haven't done that. But then it's just like, okay, I want to see what they do. Like, obviously, like you said, they have, like, the Harden stuff where, like, okay, you can take 37 crossovers and then shoot. Well, that's not applicable to anything. And then a big thing for me going off that is, like, I want to take what I do and, one, have it that I can use at our level. But, like, if I send it to a high school coach, like they can use it too. Like, like the Rockets, for instance. Like, okay, the ISO Harden, independent trigger being able to create on his own off of crossovers and diving into guys to create a foul. Probably not going to work in a high school game on a Friday night. But what they do around that is really interesting because, like, they'll do, like, touch screens, and they'll use different type of surprise screens where they'll basically cut underneath and set, like, I call it a mash, which is a screen into a handoff. And they'll set that for a guy. Well, you can use that. Like, that's stuff you can do. But you can't do all of it. But, like, there is things that you can legit do. And that's how I approach it for me. And then just try to show creative stuff. Like, I think the more you look at, like, the creative stuff that those coaches are doing, not only can you just steal it, like, flat out and say, oh, I can run that, but, like, you can also, like, well, this is a really good idea, and we do this already, so now I can take these two things and put them together, and now I can build a series. Like, it's funny, like, I was watching the Rockets, I saw a play I really liked, and that weekend we had an AAU tournament, and I put it in, like, literally just drew it up on the board, and we got a layup off it. So it was like, okay, well, this is super simple. Like, we could do this. We do something like it. So that's kind of how I approach the process of going and finding all that stuff.
I do want to disagree with you on one thing. I do think there's probably, if there's any high school kids listening to this, at least 3/4 of them probably think they can break their guy down on 37 dribbles and get to the rim. I do think coaches might not be cool with it, but I'm guessing there's a lot of high school kids think, no, coach hates me. He doesn't let me play like James Harden, but I got that ability.
Oh, there's 100%. I think not every, I'll give some kids credit, but, it's the Dame shots from 38 feet and the Harden crossovers. We're just, all coaches are holding them back, basically, I think.
Yeah, so. Exactly. we're not letting them be the artists that they actually are.
Gotta let them hoop.
I want to come back to some of the specific actions as we get into more of the ball screen heavy stuff here in the second part of this. But I just want to briefly touch on your AAU and then the last couple of years at St. Mary's here before we get into ball screen heavy stuff. So you've been coaching AAU. What is something that you've noticed from the AAU game that is maybe helping you in recruiting guys, or just something that's maybe made you look at the college game differently?
Good question. I think it's been a good experience working with Select. I've coached the third team each year, and so it's good for me to see that, because it kind of, like, when you're at the college level, like, you kind of take for granted a lot of stuff that, oh, they can just do it. They're a varsity kid. So I think, one, it makes me appreciate just how good a coaches high school coaches are, and I don't think high school coaches get enough credit. Like, when I was younger, I always thought the NBA guys and the college guys were, not superior, but, like, that's who I was. But it's like, no, these high school guys, what they have to do, like, some don't get to recruit. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you got to really just take the guys you have and build what you're doing that year each year. So that's something that I've learned a ton. I think being around kids more at that age has helped me recruiting wise, because I get to see what they're like when it's not like a text from a college coach or like they're on a visit. Like, so it's kind of giving me like an insight into how they think, what type of things they're looking at. Okay, like, well, I had a recruit last year, maybe I didn't connect with. Well, why didn't I connect? And then I'm talking to some of my guys this year, and it's like, oh, so this is what they are talking about. This is why it doesn't resonate when I'm talking with stuff that, or this is like, I'm making a joke about Facebook or something, social media, and they don't even do Facebook. They're on Snapchat or they're on TikTok or whatever. Like that kind of stuff has been really beneficial. And then, like that's the biggest stuff. And like for me, like how I view it is like a way to experiment with things I want to work on, like different drill ideas, like finishing stuff. Like we had a lot of issues, not a lot, but we had some issues like finishing at the rim last winter for St. Mary's against the guys that were like going vertical. Like we didn't do real well with that. Well, I'm like, how can we work on that? So in AAU, we were kind of having a similar problem. So, like we did a lot of our finishing stuff with a slight advantage, and then we put a guy at the rim, and now you have to like go finish against a chest up or a vertical, like a wall up type thing. So like that's the kind of the way I use it, even with like teaching stuff. Like I did a dribble drive for 2 years with AAU to do structure. Like this year I went to like a 5-out, more delay type stuff, I've never coached it. So now I got to work with it. I thought it fit our guys. Like, well, I'm going to dive all into this year and kind of do it and see how it works. And those are kind of the big benefits I think I get from it.
You guys were 1-24 a couple of years ago, and this past year you made the playoffs and had a playoff win. Talk about the transition and the change. Changing of culture, that stuff gets thrown around a lot. Just what were some of the things that you guys did in the last 2 years to make that huge leap as a program?
Yeah, the 1-24 I would not recommend. It was not good for the mental health. And in all seriousness, it was a fluke type thing. We lost that summer before we lost our best player, like potential player of the year in the MIAC, potential All-American, who was Eli Cave. We lost him in July to a knee, and then we lost probably our second best player, Kevin Gleason, who's from Washburn. Eli's from Benilde, and then Kevin's from Washburn. We lost him to a knee. So in the span of about 3 weeks, you go from being like, hey, like we're going to be young, but we got Eli, we got KG. Like we're going to be all right. Like, we're not going to be the best team in the conference, but we'll be able to compete. We lose those guys. And now we got to throw 3 freshmen that we recruited really hard and a couple other freshmen into the fire from day one. And that was, Jamison Rustoven was the coach that year. And then he, we did a great job recruiting guys. Like even like that class was Sawyer Rosner from Phelps, Wisconsin, Kareem Anthony Bello from Chicago, and then Jake Bailey was the third guy in that class from Cameron, Wisconsin. And those guys were really talented, but they're freshmen going against men. Like Jake was 6'8", 180 pounds going against dudes like Colin Olmscheid from Augsburg and like these other big, like you're just not going to do well in that situation when you're 40 pounds, 50 pounds lighter than a guy. So it was a tough year, but there was a lot of benefits. Those guys got good experience. After that, during the summer of that year, there was a coaching change. Joe Fano came in, and he worked at Benedictine when they went to the national championship and lost to St. Thomas. That was the only game they lost all year, and then to North Park. So when Coach Fano came in, it was a huge it was crazy. Like it was a crazy couple months, and we kind of stabilized after he got here. And I think the biggest thing he did was just the accountability piece. Like he really brought that from day one. Like he's like, hey, like this is how we're going to do things. If you don't like it, there's the door. I think our guys bought into that. We had a good year. We won 8 games that first year with Coach. Kind of changed some of the offensive stuff. We did more Davidson motion. He's like an expert in it. And then, it was more just the culture piece. Like, and it wasn't that our culture was bad, but it's just whenever you have that change, it's a natural change to that new culture. And we won 8 games that year. We lost 10 games under 10 points. We got beat at the buzzer 3 different times in the MIAC play. So we were really close to being really good. So our guys were really excited. And this past year, we were finally experienced. Like college basketball, high school basketball is the same way. Like you don't win with young guys unless you got like lottery type guys like at your level. And so this year was, you take that logical progression. You probably don't go from 1 win to 15 wins in a year unless you're really special. But we went 1-8, and then this year we went to 14. Well, again, we lost a couple close ones. We had a rough stretch, and we lost Raheem Anthony, who was our point guard, a freshman from Chicago. And he was out for 5 games around Christmas, and we lost all 5. Like, it's just one of those deals. Like, it's basketball. So, like, we've had this progression, and I think the biggest thing that's changed in our program is that our guys just got older and they got better, and they put a ton of work in. Like Eli is one of the best players in the league night in and night out. Like he's only had in the last 2 years, he's only had one night where he didn't score double figures in the MIAC, like with great coaches at every school, like, and great players, great defenders. So, playing through him, he's just so unselfish and just does so many things. And then I think our supporting cast just got really good at buying into what they need to do. And we were much better defensively this year too, which I think helps a ton. And it's been a fun ride. Like the words don't explain like how good it felt after this year, knowing that we did something that's really never been done other than one time in our school's history.
Most of the people listening to this are going to be high school coaches. So I want to take your insight into the college world and help some high school coaches out with their student athletes that hopefully they're going to be able to coach this winter. So obviously the spring's been goofy with COVID and the recruiting and how you guys have went about with getting out and watching guys play. So what is one piece of advice that you might challenge a high school coach to help their player get on the radar with college programs, given that the AAU season was a little goofy?
Yeah, it was really goofy. I would say the biggest thing is just have that level of communication, and I'll admit I'm not always perfect with, like, if a coach sends me an email on a kid, like, I don't always get back right away. Like, it's just life. Like, sometimes it's just like, hey, I need to get back to this guy, and you just forget. But it works the same way. Like, I get that. I would say the best thing you can do is just, if you have film on a kid, like, reach out to a coach, be like, hey, coach, like, I don't know if you saw Johnny this summer during AAU. Like, he's been really good for us. Here's what he can do. Here's his stats from last year. Here's some film. Let me know if you need anything else. Like, I think that's the best thing you can do. And, like, for players, like, honestly, like, we get a million emails from kids, like, from all over. Like, I get emails. I got an email today from a kid from, like, New York, a kid from California, a kid from, I think, Australia. Like, that's an everyday thing. Like, so when you're, like, sending those emails, or if you're telling your kids to send these emails, like, you got to personalize it. Don't put, like, you're the hardest working guy you've ever met, like, because, like, every kid says that, and we'll be able to tell that in the film. But I think, like, the biggest thing is, like, go and fill a questionnaire out and send an email. Because, like, if I see that you filled out a questionnaire, like, it's a small thing. It's taken 5 minutes. But, like, hey, like, they took time to do this. I'm going to watch his film. And personalize the email. Don't just say, hey, coach, I love your program. I've been a fan since I was a kid. It's like, dude, like, I'm a Division III coach. Like, you never watched my team play. Like, you don't have to lie about that type of stuff. Like, just I tell kids, like, just be honest, and it's been one of those things. Like, if you just say, hey, coach, like, I'm really interested in coming to play. Here's my film. Let me know what you think. Like that's usually going to be good if you personalize it just a little bit.
That's really good information, because I think that, it's going to be hard. There's going to be this 21 class is going to be tough to, given everything that, maybe some of them, I know a lot of coaches get a lot of their high school scouting, especially with the junior classes. Maybe they'll see them at the state tournament and then they follow them into the AAU season. And so not having the state tournament, seeing some of those perennial teams that are pumping out college kids, then not having the AAU season as normal, where you're able to get in the gym at 8 a.m. at the Whitney Center on a Saturday and Sunday and see the upcoming seniors. I think coaches, it's a little bit of our responsibility. I know we're going to have a lot on our plates as teachers and educators, but I do think that we need to really take the extra step with helping our guys get recruited. So I think that's great feedback. Just want to review that. You said the questionnaire, personalize the email, and be honest, right? Those would be the three big things.
Yeah. Like for a player, the less you try to describe yourself, the better. Like, I don't need you to tell me that you can play 1 through 5. Like, if you're 6'2", you're not playing 1 through 5. Like, and I don't need to say, like, I'm the hardest worker, or, like, I care about the game. Like, that's going to be evident when we talk. Like, I think that's the funniest thing I get. And like I said, like, I had a kid that says he's been a fan of mine since he was a baby, like he was like 5 or something. I'm like, dude, like, you don't know who I am. You just saw my email on a website and you emailed me. So I could write a book about, like, the emails I get from kids. It's just, and, like, they're coming from a good place. But I tell all my guys, like, just be real. Just say, hey, coach, this is my film. This is my stats. This is I'm a 2-guard at, I don't know, Matamidi. Or, like, I'd love to talk to you about playing. And just be real. And just the less you put, the better. Like, as long as you personalize it a little bit and it doesn't look like a form letter set to every coach in the country, most of us will at least look at the film. And then it's just up to how good you are.
Mike D'Antoni's coaching the MIAC. I think he might play a 6'2" guy at the 5. He could probably switch 5 with that.
Yeah, maybe. Like, he'd probably find – that guy's so creative. He'd probably find a way to make it work too.
All right, let's get into ball screen offense. I know you mentioned that, for a while you're kind of more of a defensive lens guy, but you've put out a lot of stuff with ball screen offense from, I know you've sent out some presentation stuff that you've done, and you've within your In the Gaps newsletter and blog, you've done some breakdown of some of the more modern 5-out, spread ball screen offense type stuff. So I think you're a really good source for high school coaches who I know would be willing to discuss further with anyone who wants to reach out to you. But let's talk the basics of the modern ball screen offense that you're seeing a lot of teams run. And specifically, if you were a high school coach, what would the install look like with your program?
Yeah, so one of my big projects this offseason was just diving into ball screen stuff. So like after our season, I'm like, this is what I want to dive into. I've been paying a lot of attention to the European game. I got some friends coaching over there, and so they've been great with me, teaching me that stuff. And I think the whole thing it starts with is understanding what you're trying to accomplish in the ball screen. Like, and I'm 100% guilty of this as well. Like, or I should say, like, I've changed this because when I was learning and growing as a coach in the past, and especially at like Cornell, like everything we did off the ball screen for the guards was how do we score off the ball screen as the guard. So if they, like it's all about coverage solutions. So if they hedge hard, well, I'm probably going to try to split it, or I'm going to try to like get downhill against it. Like if they're going in a drop, well, I'm going hostage dribble, and then I'm going to try to beat the rim. Well, the thing I've like really taken away from talking to a lot of these European coaches is the ball screen is the best chance or a great chance to just create an advantage. So you got to frame that lens for those guys like, hey, and I got the point guard I had with AAU this year. Like we did a lot of ball screen stuff. It's like, you don't have to score. You don't have to make the assist. Your job is to find the advantage. And we create it with this. So like, so for instance, if they're in a soft coverage, like a drop or maybe even like a switch, like our thing is like, okay, where should the ball go? So if they're in that soft coverage, I'm teaching my guards more times than not, again, it's always different, but I'm teaching my guards, if they're soft, you're throwing it back like to the shake guy behind you. So if I'm coming off that side pick and roll and my guy rolls, and I think the biggest thing before I go into anything else, more screeners need to roll. Like the roll is the thing that everyone defaults to the pop. And I think it's very ineffective. It looks cool if you make a three, but like, you can score on the roll if you're really good at it. And you don't even need to be a good player. You just need to be active and cut hard. So if my guy is coming off the ball screen from the wing and they're in a soft, like a drop, I'm teaching that guy, his first look is most likely he's finding the tag, but he's throwing it behind to that guy that's coming up out of the ball side corner. Because that way, like, your screener's going to roll, he's going to pivot around, and you're going to be able to get the ball in the post. Or if your guy helps in on the tag, then you're going to have a shot drive pass decision. If it's like a hard show or a double, one, we're teaching them to get rid of it early. Like we're trying to I did a lot of stuff with the efficient sauce guys. They're two really good big time coaches from that coach in New Zealand, and you're basically drawing up plays. But they call it like a Messi pass, like Lionel Messi. Like he's so good at just finding that next pass, that throw ahead pass to make the play. So what I'm teaching on like a hard thing is I'm throwing the ball ahead, because now if they're trapping me and I throw it ahead, they put two on the ball. We got to create it. We've created an advantage. If that guy rolls hard, you're either going to have the roll or that guy in the corner, but you might have that advantage right from that guy throwing the pass. But you've already created it. The other thing you can do on like the hard one is you can short roll. Like you can have that big, not roll all the way to the rim, just kind of like Draymond Green, like take a couple steps underneath it, open up to the ball, and now you got a 4-on-3 that way too. But like back in the day when I was at Cornell, we had an awesome guard, like one of the all-time leading scorers in school history, and he was so good. All we taught was like split, get to the rim, split, go, be aggressive, get downhill. Like, so that's kind of how it's evolved for me in teaching the ball screen. Like from a big picture perspective is like, how do we find the advantage? We've created it because they're putting two on the ball. And then like, how do we play off that? And then that's like such a big part of it. Like you don't need to get super complex. It's just like understanding where the ball goes and how to make those passes and where you should be looking. Like you got to have that hard focus, like when you have it, obviously a little bit, but you got to have that soft focus, like to see the whole court. So if they're rolling hard, well, who's tagging in? Who's helping in on the ball? So if the guy in the corner comes over and helps it, well, I'm throwing the ball to his man. Like, but it sounds so easy, like when you say it on here, and like, but like it's guys, like what they do is they just look at that roll. So they're playing two guys. They're not looking at like everything that's going on around the ball. I'm like, hey, like this guy's open. Like I can just get it to him right now. I don't even have to come off the screen. So I just more aware of where you need to look and just how to create that advantage based off the coverage is a huge part of it.
You talked that fives are rolling aren't rolling enough, and they're settling with pop. We ran in that last year. We had a really successful five for us who averaged 18 a game and playing in the NAIA. He liked to pop too much. We like, dude, you got to roll your 6-7, roll. And so I want to break down what are some of your maybe you haven't taught it a ton, but in your research, and what have you found are some of the main like teaching points or phrases to help just coaches like, all right, I need to get my 5 rolling more. Where we're inefficient with our roll or their footwork. What is in your research? What have you found is the most effective way of teaching just reads and the general pick, roll, pick, pop, pick, slip, pick, touch decision of the 5?
Yeah. So like to me, I think you got to empower that roll guy to like make reads. Like we all talk about reads with the ball handler, but the screener has a huge part in this thing. So like, again, your whole job is to create the advantage. So if my guy is running up from the bottom and he's going to like screen on the wing, set a ball screen. Well, coverage dependent a little bit. Like he has 2 reads he needs to make. They're called smash or sprint. So like a sprint is once you see that guy on the ball, open up his hips and get to the side. Like if we're defending a ball screen and my buddy calls out ball screen, I'm opening my hips up and I'm getting on that bottom side to force him to the screen so he can't reject it. If I'm the screener, my job is done because my player already has an advantage getting downhill because he has that guy on his hip. So now as a screener, all my job is to reroute and make sure he goes over and then sprint to the rim. Like you don't even really need to get a big piece of him. Whereas like, let's say that guard doesn't really, for whatever reason, doesn't really jump to the hips, like gets in that like gentleman's type stance, like where he's just like on the side ready to move. And then like so he's more like square to the ball. Well, now you got to smash. So what a smash is like, my guy doesn't have the advantage. So now I got to set him a screen to get him open and I got to hold the screen. So like against the drop, like the smash is really important because if you set a good screen on that and you can roll off it, you're playing 2-on-1 with your guard with a head advantage. So it's like, I know I got to screen this guy. And then like, whereas like maybe like against the hedge or whatever, it doesn't matter. But like a sprint is, I'm basically going and just making sure he goes over. Like that's my whole job, you know? And then like, as you get more advanced with it, like you can do more stuff with it. Like, so I I watch a lot of like jazz stuff, you know, cause they just do an excellent job. And like, you'll watch like Gobert when he screens, he's so good at just manipulating angles for his ball handlers, depending on who they are. Like if it's a drag situation, and he already sees that defender is pushing him middle, like where he just needs to sprint. He's like running to the rim. I think they call it like a roll run or something like that. He doesn't stop moving. He just goes through that gap between the offensive player and the hedge guy, and he runs to the rim. Well, in a drop situation or whatever, that hedge guy has to be able to stay underneath the roll, or else in that situation you're giving a lob or just giving up a layup. And then he's also good at, you know, like, okay, like, do I just stop a second and make sure that guy goes over? Do I make, you know, like that kind of stuff. But the other thing he's good at is he'll like screen a little higher because everyone talks about screening low and forcing that guy down. Well, he'll like, especially with Ingles, like he'll screen higher on the body. And what that does is like, and I mean, like even us, like we tell all our guards to go over every ball screen. And they have freedom to go underneath sometimes, but like, so if you screen higher on the body, that guard is going to do one of 2 things. That guard's going to trace it and go so high to get over the screen because he's doing what coach told him, that now you got that 2-on-1 advantage going to the rim, and now you can play against the drop and like have the shake and have all your movement. Or he's going under, and once they go under, it's an automatic rescreen. So now you got, you know, like Joe Ingles, but even like with my AAU guys this spring and summer, like we taught them if they go under, you automatically turn and rescreen. Because they can't go under twice or else they're going to give up a wide open shot or you're so low, you're getting to the rim. So I think just empowering your bigs to be able to understand situation, how they're reading the screen. Like, okay, like what is the defense doing? Again, like short roll. Are they really jumping out hard on my guy? Well, I just find the pocket underneath. And then once I get there, now we're playing 4-on-3. And I think another thing you got to work on is teaching your guards how to make those passes to the bigs. Because if you want your big dogs rolling, like, you got to throw them the ball every once in a while, or else they're not going to. They're just going to pop. Like, so like for me, I spend a lot of time teaching like the pocket pass because guards don't want to throw it. They get really hesitant with it. Like, so it's like you got to work on that and say, hey, if you roll really hard and do your job rolling, we're going to get you the ball, and you're going to get 4 to 6 points just on rolling. And whether it's off the little pocket pass, whether it's off like a throwback and throw into the post, whether it's like a lob for a layup at our level, like you got to show them that there's good things that are going to happen to you if you roll, because then they'll do it better and they'll set better screens.
All right, so you talked about what the big things that I heard that I wrote down maybe some new understanding for me, is the sprint smash concept. I really like that. So just to review, so if you're seeing a guy, screen is running up to the screen, and you see the defender, you see like pretty much the front of their jersey start to turn towards you. You're just going to sprint. You're just going to get a touch and go, right?
Basically, yes.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
And then the smash is going to be if you kind of see that shoulder, that arm, they haven't really adjusted. They're playing straight up. You're looking to set a good screen. And the advanced piece might be a screen a little bit higher if you know that they're going over the screen, correct?
Yeah. No, and I think that you nailed it. Like, I think the sprint smash thing has been a huge thing with me because, like, it empowers those bigs to do what they need to do. But then it also, like that sprinting, like, you've done your job. Just by the act of you coming to screen, you've opened up that advantage opportunity for your teammates. So now let's get out and sprint downhill. And footwork-wise, like, I just say get down and just get to the rim as quickly as you can. Like, we'll fine-tune it if we need to short roll or whatever. But that smash thing, it's like, okay, now your teammate needs help to create that advantage. So if I set a good screen, he's going to get that advantage. And I think that's it takes a little bit, especially like with the AAU guys, the high school guys I work with. But like even at the college level, it's just like, oh, like this actually makes a ton of sense. And then the light bulb goes on, and then they get good at it.
Let's talk about the one, or the primary ball handler, point guard, whatever you want to call it, whatever the terminology is in your program. What are some of their basic reads? So we broke down the 5. Let's talk about the point guard's reads. They're coming to a ball screen, 5 sprinting up. They haven't made their decision if it's a sprint smash yet. What are they looking to do?
So the first thing, like, there's been 2 guys that have helped me a ton with ball screen. One guy is named Liam Flynn. He's a Australian that coached in Hapoel Jerusalem last year in the Champions League. He is, if you want to learn ball screen stuff, he has videos on CoachTube. He is the GOAT. Like, he is the best I've ever heard. Then another is Brent Tipton. He's an American coach in Guam, and he has some really good stuff. So I'm going to basically steal all their stuff right now and just sound smart. But, like, those are the 2 guys that, like, if I need to learn, I'm going. So when I'm coming up to the ball screen, my first thing is I got to scan the floor. That soft focus. I'm looking corner, middle, corner. What I'm trying to do as the guard with the ball handler is I'm trying to find that flat-footed defender, that guy that isn't quite in the gap. Maybe he's helping early, but I'm scanning all the other players to see, like, can I throw it quick to the corner and create an advantage? Okay, there's nothing there. Like, I see that, like, that defender's not creeping in. He's paying attention. He's alert. Now I'm looking middle. Is there a chance to throw it, to create, like, the roller just slip? Or is there just something in the middle of the floor happening? Now I'm looking opposite corner. Is that guy starting to cheat in because he knows he's got to help on this ball screen? And then I throw it ahead. So that's my first look. And then as I'm coming off, I'm reading coverage. What is my coverage solution? Are they hedging? Are they soft? What are they doing? My first thing when I'm coming up to a ball screen is, as a scorer, I'm trying to reject. Like, I tell our guards, I've said it every year I've coached, I want to lead the country in rejected ball screens. Because the setup to your ball screen is everything. Like, your ability to get that guy to the level of the screen or below is such a big part of the ball screen process. Well, if you are a threat to reject things, and that, like, I think about it from a defensive standpoint. If a guy gets rejected on a ball screen and I'm the defensive coach, like at St. Mary's, like, that's one of my non-negotiables. Like, if a guy gets rejected, like the wrath of everything is coming at that kid. So I know my guys, like, so I tell my guys, well, like, think about this. If you can reject it, the next time you come up to the ball screen, now that guy's playing that. Now you got him set up. Now it's just a little in and out, being able to set him up away from the screen, and he's going to bite because you just rejected it, and he just got yelled at by his coach in a timeout. So being that threat to reject with the really good guys, the next stage is being able to split before and maybe split after. That stuff I don't teach it as much except to certain guys. So now as I'm coming off the screen, I'm reading where the help's coming from, how they're covering me on the ball, who's tagging, and then what I need to do with it. And again, it sounds like it's whatever, but like if they're in a drop, like I'm trying to control it. Like I'm trying to control that guy on my back in like a hostage situation, letting my roller get downhill, letting them show the tag. And then like, it's like Luka, like that dude's never in a rush. Like he is so much fun, and it helps that he's 6'7" and just amazing at everything. But like that dude never rushes his reads. Like he's literally in the hostage dribble for 3 dribbles. And he's like, okay, now I see that help coming in. Now I'm going to throw that pass. So I think like that's a big part. And then you got to just teach your guards how to make those passes. Like you got to be okay with like the underhand little bounce pass for a pocket pass. You got to be okay with like an overhead hook pass to hit the shake guy. Like those are the way those guys got to make those passes. And I think the more they see where the help is coming from and understanding like, I don't need to score, I don't need to make the assist, I just got to make the next right play. And I think that's such a big component for those guys coming off the screen.
That is, we run a lot of spread ball screen type stuff, but this is a ton of great notes that I'm writing down. But one of the things too that I want to build off of, like you said, I think one of the biggest misconceptions, I think someone had it going on in a Twitter poll too this weekend or something. I don't know. The last 5 months, the days kind of all merged together. But I had to go back. I had to go back when you were talking to figure out exactly what day Fran was. I thought it was like 2 days ago, and it was 5 days ago. But the biggest misconception is like where coaches I think overstep their power so much as with passing. It's like we got a chest pass, we got to the old school passing within the body. It's like no, like those passes get stolen. It's like you got to be able to make that. The no look pass isn't for the Instagram. The no look pass is to hold the help or hold the defense so you can set the roll man up, or the one handed pocket pass off the bounce, or like you said, the hook pass. I think those are the passes where if you want to truly have an efficient offense, you have to be okay with them completing. And I think you have to be okay with the occasional turnover because eventually, I mean, if you break down 20 possessions and maybe you turn it over once because of the pass, but you allow yourself to maybe have more scoring opportunities. And in your league, when you guys got a 30-second shot clock, I mean, eventually you got to shoot the damn thing. Right? You got to do something. You can't just pass it around, chest pass around the perimeter. So I think that's a big thing with offense. I think that I would challenge coaches is to reevaluate what passes that they accept within their programs.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like, I used to be the most fundamental, like, thumbs down, all the camp BS that you teach. And it's like the more I study it and, like, the more I look at basketball, and Chris Oliver, Basketball Immersion, was the guy I'm like, I am such a dope. Like, my guys don't make those passes. So let's get them good at, like, the passes that they are making. Like, the first day, like, even, like, AAU a little bit, but more with our college guys, like when we're working on ball screen, like, the first thing we're working on is throwing that underhanded bounce pass for a pocket pass. And it's funny because, like, you have it in a game. Like, we had a game, we knew, like, we'll go 2-on-2 ball screens and work on what they're going to cover, especially for, like, Eli. And in the game, I can't even remember who we were playing, but Eli makes the bounce pass. And I'm like, we got on our guys that have him, like, it's there. Just throw it. Just throw it. And in the second half in front of our bench, Eli makes that pass. And he looks at me, and I'm like, yes, like, you did it. Like, thank you. Like, it was just really cool because it's like, guys are just hesitant to throw those passes because they've been taught, like, inside the body, thumbs down when you throw it, bounce it 2/3 of the way there. It's like, no, like, play basketball. It's all about getting the ball to where it needs to go as fast as possible and as accurate as possible. Now, if you're not good at throwing the hook pass, like, you better work on it because you need that. And I just think, like, for me, like, that's been a huge adjustment in my coaching.
Last ball screen related question. You've done a lot, or maybe this isn't even ball screen. Maybe this is more offense based. But if you could answer it with in regards to an action that is some sort of ball screen, I'd appreciate that because then I can write it down for my team. So you've done a lot of studying. You mentioned the mash action, which I really like. So maybe that's your answer. What action have you seen that is the most applicable? That maybe NBA teams are running this, high level D1s are running this, but I know that high school programs can run this successfully.
Yeah, like, I think the mash stuff is really good. I think when you
let's talk about that. Break that down. What is it? Just talk through that whole possession then of what a mash action is.
So a mash action is basically when you screen or get screened. And again, this is credit as Fish and Sauce guys. Like,
it's all you, man. It's all you. We all steal, so just take it.
Like, they're the best at talking basketball. They're like two of the best offensive minds in the world, so I got to credit them. Like, I'm taking their terminology because they get it. But a mash is basically I'm dribbling or I'm screening for a guy or getting screened into a dribble handoff. So, like, let's say it's the point guard. He hits the trailer at the top of the key, like the 5-man, and there's a guy in the corner, like a traditional 5-out. Well, a mash action would be point guard, I'm now going and down screening for that guy in the corner. My big is going to dribble over and hand off to the guy in the corner and then probably roll, and then I would shake. They can also be, if I'm in the same situation, like, let's say I pass it to that guy in the corner, he dribbles up, hits the big at the top of the floor, and now I, like let's just say I kind of meander down towards, like, the block area. Now I set that back screen for that player to come off me, and then I come and get the handoff. Those are both considered like a mash. You screen or get screened, to get to a dribble handoff. So I think that's, like, really effective. One of the actions I really like, it's a Hoiberg thing from back in Iowa State. And I've run this. We ran it at Cornell. We ran a ton of Hoiberg stuff. And then, like, I've been watching, like, the Erie Bayhawks. I think I'll have a blog on it next week. And then Santa Cruz Warriors, who are the best G League team in terms of all ball screen offense stuff. So like picture like a 4-out. So basically, like I dribble handoff with the other guy in the other slot. So like dribble drive, whatever. The post player is working away to the block. So the block, I'm dribbling handoff to that guy. He's going to go into some dribble handoff, basically bring it back to the initial side. And now either he's throwing it back or he's playing dribble handoff with the guy in the corner. But the ball comes back to the point guard at the top. Now, like after like a pass, like I dribble handoff, he dribble handoffs, and he throws it back to me. And then that big that's underneath the defense comes and sprints and sets like a step up. Like I love that action, and it's probably hard to explain on here, but if you look up Fred Hoiberg mix angle is basically what it is. And then like I'll have stuff on it a little bit too, but it's such a cool action because you're getting the defense moving with a couple dribble handoffs, and now you're coming back to your best ball handler with a 5-man or a post player sprinting up and setting a weird angle ball screen. And now if he rolls, now everyone's got to be on point, and you've already touched 3 or 4 guys. Like 4 guys are involved in the action, the 5th dude's spacing in the corner. So I like stuff like you can do like that and stack it on top of each other. Like I think that stuff's really hard to guard. And then just a general action that I love is like the ball screen, middle ball screen with that guard coming underneath like to a baseline exit. So it basically turns into a single tag, which I think is a huge piece of offense. Like so like just say it's a traditional middle ball screen and we put a guard under the rim, but you can get into a million different actions. That big sets the ball screen for the guard. And at that side that the guard's going to, there's a guy in the corner screening in for that guy underneath the basket. And so now what happens is you're involving 4 guys and really 5 because the only guy that can help on that is the backside corner guy. And that big rolling, there's a single tag, but then you also have a shooter coming out to the strong side. And I think like that's like my favorite action right now that I've seen. So I don't know. I threw too much at you probably, but.
Well, the thing is that, and I'm picking up what you're putting down because I've read the blogs and I've looked through the video breakdown. So all this stuff is broken down one way or another on Coach Brown's newsletter, In the Gaps. Great stuff. I highly encourage you guys to check that out. Reach out to Coach Brown on Twitter. I know he'll respond to you quickly. Email. Just don't say that you've been watching him since you were 5 because apparently he won't email you back. I do have one more bonus.
I'll call you a liar. So.
I got one more bonus question here, and you saw this coming through. Mount Rushmore of Quick Trip items.
Man, it's like a dad trying to pick his favorite kid. Like, I've thought about this too. Like, I prepped for this, and I really don't have an answer. So I guess I would go. All right. So the breakfast croissant, I think, is really good. I like Coach Sorensen at Northland's idea of just 4 different tornadoes. Like, I think I respect that choice. So I'll go the breakfast croissant sandwich is solid. I would say then after that, probably a tornado. Those are pretty solid. Last 2, and this is bad because I prepped for this and I don't have it, man. They're just all so good. Like they're at some of them they have a chicken tender wrap that's pretty good, and all this stuff is super healthy too. So don't worry about calories. Counting your macros. And then the last one I guess would probably be just the regular like chicken tender type thing. No, I would say I'll go with the egg rolls. We'll add some variety.
If you can get, and this doesn't count. If you can get to the, and we have a Quick Trip. It's right by the high school, and I live on the other side of town, so I don't really go to it anymore. But it's Quick Trip for me is like a basketball thing. It's like right next to our high school, so it's like I pull in, Quick Trip, get my Sprite, gum, whatever for the game. But man, the if you can get your hands on a microwave, like the Quickery cinnamon rolls microwave though. It's like 750 calories, man. Those are good. But I guess you're talking when you're out on the road, you don't have a microwave in the car with you. So you got to get what you get, what's hot.
Yeah. So I always think about it like Quick Trip as like recruiting, like you're driving back from middle of nowhere, Minnesota, middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. You need to eat something after a game. You know, it might have whatever. And it's like 10 o'clock, 10:15 at night. And you're just hoping you don't hit a deer like a abominable snowman or something in like the Northwoods. And you just like stop and it's like, okay, what am I going to go grab that's quick and easy? Well, it's Quick Trip. So that's how I look at it.
All right, Coach, I appreciate it. Keep up putting that good content out. Best of luck to everything for your program and you as an individual in the future. And coaches, reach out. Kyle's here to help. So thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thank you for having me.